There we go. It's a PDF. I think they have, so how would I go?
Or just let me know. No,
But it's not that. That's not really what it was. Well, in other words, it was true.
we do their chairs here.
I'm playing music in chairs.
Chairs. Front.
No, they can use it with chairs.
So when it comes down to this, individualism and
That's what it's your. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Still having computer issues.
You did that. Figure out, I mean, there's gonna be nothing else.
They're ready? Did that one die?
Totally dead. I'm not even gonna pretend it's alive.
Here, let's go to this charger.
It's not working.
It's the computer. This is the back charger.
Well,
And it's not the computer. If it's completely dead, it won't work.
no.
Because mine did this to me before at home.
But can show up with an OS system is
Yeah.
have to be resolved entirely, because that's what it did right where it turned out.
What did you do to it?
Yeah.
It's not in there. After I filled it all my.
You filled it with water?
Yeah, well.
All right, can we,
Just gonna be.
you want us to wait for you? Or can we start?
Let's just go to the other
The
item.
work-
While she's doing her stuff.
All right, so we'll start with, we'll just, on our work meeting, we'll start on the discussion for observation of states, so you can do stuff up. If you can. What? So. Observation of state final plat. Everyone on the commission understand why this is on here? For observation of states, anyone have any questions on it?
Yeah.
My understanding is that we're going through a process that was not correctly years ago.
This seems like, yes, it appears to have been missed before,
Yes,
even though it's been recorded.
correct.
All right, so everybody's on the same page. Sweet. Anyone have any concerns about that or anything they want to discuss about observation of states?
No executive requirement.
It's also not, my understanding is it's recorded, so it's done. So this would be to fix our process, not to analyze.
Correct, this is fixing our.
Perfect. Ken, did you have any questions on that observation of states?
I have.
Okay, sure, we'll take it. Go ahead. So this would be the final plat, the one on, in the, not the one down on the public here.
So if I understand this correctly, on observation. We are trying to move this forward to planning, to town council. It apparently was not a final public meeting was not held. And so to meet our town code and state law, it's my understanding that we need to have those public meetings. It's my proposal that we expedite this. As fast as we can. Um, And we don't target any fees from capital. Fees for, doing this public meeting. And I think that, once we move through that process, we ought to be able to do the short-term rental. Once the town council does the final that including written that if we decide to do this. Okay. That's my opinion.
Thanks. Anyone else have any more comments or discussion about the observation estates final plat?
My only comment would be that how, no matter how hard we work here, it seems like the council is taking their time to even get things on their agenda. And if there's some way we can make our recommendation, and we have no power but that of lobbying as a other body of the town to have them at least put it on the next agenda. So when we do make any kind of motion, I'll probably make it in that effect. Whether it actually has any power or not may not work, but it's just frustrating when we pass things on and 6 months later, they're still not on the agenda for the town council.
So, if you saw they do have a special meeting for tomorrow where they're gonna discuss all those ordinances. Final work meeting,
Yeah.
and then I believe. So they are working on them, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah, but this is one that obviously there's showing it or seeing it as something that was missed, and we just need to cross the T's and dot the I's. So there should not be any, heartburn over it. It's just a matter of making it official, which technically it's already official. We're just coming back to the item and fixing it.
And John, it's also important to know that the town council has gone through zone changes. Plot maps and things like that in a timely manner, very efficiently. It's just been the written ordinances that they haven't been able to get to, so.
Yeah. Well, even the last ones we did last month.
Yeah, but that was a Christmas special meeting type thing, so I can understand that as well. Any other discussion on the observation estates final plat? No, all right, Bronwyn, did you have the things available to go over the discussion with chapter 60?
I'm working on that.
Okay. We'll skip down. Let's get it down.
Public comment then?
No, this is just the work meeting. We'll get there. Sorry, sir. All right, yeah, I should have announced that earlier. My bad. We will take public comment. After the work meeting. So we'll move on to C up there with the enforcement, the code enforcement. This is the one that was motioned to be on the work meeting. So, John, I think you made the motion, and for all those that wanted this on the work meeting, discuss it now. Ron.
So. May I start? Just the whole purpose of. Also of having it done this way is every ordinance we've been told that we have to do it a certain way, we have to have it on our. Work meeting, and then we discuss it, and then we decide what we're going to do with an ordinance. and how we want to see it. Do a draft of it, and then we put it on our regular meeting, and then we do a public hearing, typically in that order. This one didn't follow that order at all. I feel like us as the recommending body was just kind of thrown under the bus and said, we're gonna do it this way. And if you don't do it this way, it's not gonna be, it's not done right. So this has been a subject that's come up many times. We should have been tasked to just go ahead and start looking at that. I was already looking at different ways to do that prior to an ordinance being written up. And then I went through the ordinance that was written, and I have a few marks and comments and stuff. There's at least 4 different sections of this particular one that's written that would contradict other parts of what we tried to put together in Google. I do agree. I talked with both Gene and with Crystal about the needs, and to work through that, see what needs they have for this, the reasoning behind it. That all comes into play on writing an ordinance. So what it looks like is somebody just went through and just anytime zoning administrator came up, they went in there and crossed out zoning administrator and put code enforcement. That doesn't work, because then the actual duties of zoning administrator are convoluted in this whole thing. So yes, do we need somebody to cover that, the other things that the zoning administrator can't get to? Yes. Do we need it written in this way? No, not at all. I think we can simplify it very easily through just the duties that we've already spelled out for the that are already spelled out for the zoning administrator in their own section. Okay. So I think that's kind of the approach or direction that we should go. If you guys are interested in this and we can go through it, I can tell you all the problems that we do that are inherent in this one, and we can take all those out and to try to pass something with this as the bones of it. But I think we should almost in a way start over. We can have a discussion on how that would look compared to what we have here. By the way, tonight, at the same exact time up in Rockville, if any of you knew, they're also discussing hiring a code enforcement officer in conjunction with the town of Virgin. I don't believe the town council has heard that. I don't think that anybody, maybe the mayor, talked to the other mayor, and that's as far as it got, as far as anybody else being apprised of that. But I think that's putting the cart before the horse, and we were brutalized about doing that type of thing over and over again for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm a little disgruntled that is happening, and yet, we were beat up about that all over. I don't want that to get in the way of actually taking care of the needs of those who need something done. And the town employees or contractors need to have somebody to take care of that stuff, so.
Thanks, Sean.
Cameron,
Crystal, I'm not seeing this ordinance in our,
It's in December.
is it back in, did you?
it's in the December one.
Okay,
Real quick, I just verified with Steve right here, but, when planning, and I think everybody's gotten this communication with the cards, what you guys should do, but when town council sends you guys an ordinance, it is a yes or no. It is not to be picked apart by you guys. It is a yes or no. You guys either recommend it or you deny it and send it back to them.
You're talking about if they send something with language in chat.
Yeah.
So
If they said something, so for instance, this ordinance that got sent to you guys from town council,
Yes.
it's not for you guys to pick apart, it's
Yeah.
a yes or
thanks, Crystal.
Yes,
So
Everybody
I just wanna
understand
make
that?
sure everybody's on that page
That's
when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how.
yes, and that's what I was asking, was do you want this one, or do we wanna work on something else? If we wanna work on something else, this one ends up getting denied in the regular meeting. This is working.
A job description, the job isn't to set up a job
No.
description for
Unless
Our
we
job
put
is
it
not
in,
to set up anything,
a,
we're
exactly,
only recommending God.
well, I know, but we don't even get to define that, that's not.
unless we put it in Lulu, just like the zoning administrator job, we put together the duties of the zoning administrator. Which are
Which is kind
very
of-
comprehensive, and it was kind of lined out exactly what that zoning administrator
But for
does.
tonight, all we can do is vote yea or nay.
We're not even voting.
You
There'll
can't vote on
there'll be
it.
no vote tonight,
Sorry.
so, yes. Well, what Crystal is saying is that we do not rewrite the ordinance. That does not mean we can't
Do our own.
go through the ordinance. That doesn't mean we can't say, here's the faults with that ordinance when we send up the recommendation. So it's
So,
not that we don't do anything, it's just that we don't rewrite it.
so he's just said, this is what he said, if the town council gives instructions to the planning commission to draft a Lulu ordinance, then they can come up with as many changes as they want.
Yeah.
However, if the town council drafts the Lulu ordinance and sends it to the planning
Got
commission to be
it, yes,
reviewed
yes.
and have a public hearing at the vote.
Sorry, I'm trying to move things along. Everybody understands that, right? We're not redrafting the ordinance. That does not mean that Sean doesn't see a problem and say, we recommend denial of this ordinance unless the city council does this, right? Or we would recommend approval if the city council chose to do this. Okay,
Thanks, Cam.
so Sean, if you have recommendations on that, or, I didn't see any problem with it myself, so,
Do you want to talk about those recommendations now, or do we want to?
no, just have those ready for our next meeting, and if you guys had stuff you wanted to recommend for that, get that to Sean, so we can have a list of that for them.
All right, let's do that.
So we won't be rewriting it, but we can include those in our recommendation.
And maybe I'll just give copies of these to you guys,
Thanks.
just so you can see my notes on it, because. I'll give them, so you don't have to. Come up with new stuff. Redundant stuff.
Thanks, Sean. Um. We'll move to D, and because I don't think we can cover yours in, the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
We'll move to D, this is, definitions to 12 definition changes.
Are these the extra ones?
This is something you wrote.
Okay.
I think this is the continuation of the one we did, right?
So we sent one through which just covered lodging.
Right.
This one is not. Just lodging. It was all that were left off because we were considering lodging. So. Yeah, motel, and we covered that one, so we're not going to touch that one. Make notes on these. Yeah. But we did not cover our guest quarters permit. And you can see there's like one word changes on those. Service station, we did not get to because that was one that I thought would have to be adjusted. That one, the only thing really we're doing is taking the regulations and putting them down into conditional use section. So automobile service station may not include automobile repair shop, it may include a store or a restaurant. And that will just go down in that section of the automobile service stations. In that section. Okay. STR permit, STR unit. And that was it. Just those few definitions.
Why is motel on there again?
It was just still on there because I didn't change it from last month or from, I think this was October. That I did this. So,
So motel will be taken off of the next
yeah,
draft?
that's what I was just,
Any changes or anything about motel will be taken off the next draft? That,
yes. Hotel will be off.
that will be part of it, okay.
So Cameron, I might don't have on STR unit or short-term rental. I wanted to reference Utah State Code. So that dwelling unit. Where we said the residential dwelling unit, I wanted to just reference Utah Code so that we know that it has to conform to
On which one?
customary resident, just on the STR unit. So we've got the definition of that as a residential dwelling, and I just want to put in, I just wanted to cite Utah Code, which we don't have. I can't tell you what it is right now, but that was on my notes to include that.
Do we need to have?
Yeah, we do, because we want to make sure that it conforms, if our language isn't. We have a little habit of not having our language perfect, and I think if we reference.
I'll just please be specific on what you want me to change because
I just, okay, so my computer is down, so I cannot give you
are you seeing it right here? The ordinance? Or the one up there?
Can you send it to him
I can
after?
send it to you after,
You see that right
as soon as I
there?
get the computer back, I can send it to you.
Are you talking about the STR unit?
Yes.
Yes,
definition?
I want the words residential dwelling unit to have code cited next to it,
Okay.
so that.
Yeah, I can find that. You don't send it to me, I'll add that in.
You can always come to my house, look right next to it.
You live too far away.
Okay.
Any other things you guys see right off that need to be changed that I can add later for next time? I know it's good. I want crazy dictionary. Fun stuff.
It is just a dictionary and a basketball at school.
And this isn't like 100 definitions long, so
Right.
we'll see. Right, thanks.
The only thing I saw in there, Sean, was, we're defining short-term rental again, you just sent that up to them last. Yes.
Right, oh, yes, that's the other one that's gonna disappear. So motel and short-term rental are out.
So you don't even have to worry about that.
Except that we want to say that everyone's gone up the chain.
Okay, I can write, you can write that up,
Okay.
for chapter, it's in chapter 2.
Okay.
Or Sean can rewrite it up, but
Okay.
take the definition that we,
That's why I was asking.
if it's, we have to wait and see if it's accepted by the town council first.
Or I can call Tom Clancy over and-
She specifically cited STR unit
I did.
instead of STR from. or STR.
I did, yeah,
Well, that's
but
the
I
same.
still think you can.
But
Well,
that hasn't been.
well, that's actually a duplicate definition.
Just shoot the
Like
duplicate.
he's saying. But yes, you're right. Think of it.
Okay. Now, so we may not be able to do this one until the other one's been approved.
I think we can.
Well, just those two definitions. I'll run the other ones through.
Okay.
The other ones aren't duplicates. I'll run those through, and then if the other two don't pass, then we'll do new definitions for those two.
Fair enough.
All right, so we have five, anybody have anything else? All right, we'll take a 5-minute break then, and then we'll start into our regular meeting.
Are we going to have in the regular meeting any discussion on the?
We will have discussion in our regular meeting on chapter 60.
Okay. Perfect.
Well, I'm gonna be busy studying for Randy Math.
All I'm gonna be busy doing is Steve's question. This, saying question.
We're taking 5 minutes.
I rewrote the whole thing. I know, what I did, is I had it all, we could do it a different way, I just have it all written. I don't know. We could recommend it tonight, but we don't know. And so I rewrote it all. The whole thing. But, okay.
I understand. I think.
Well, I don't know.
I think. And put it. No, this was brought up.
Oh, no. I just think it's not any kind of. Maybe you have to read. So I should have now. First time is. So we. But I remember when.
Huh? Sorry. Hopefully you saved it.
I saved it.
Okay, hopefully you saved it about on the hard drive. Oh, that's fine. I'll leave that one. Crystal, do you have the conflict of interest forms here tonight for us for this next year? Or do you have them digitally you can send to us? We can fill them out digitally? What's that?
I can do it.
Oh, yeah, every year you have to fill out the conflict of interest form. You have conflict of interest you gotta put on there? Hey, you know your dog has a boyfriend, right?
I hate my dog, what's my about?
And he is over there at my work every morning. I tell you, get home. I don't shoot him, no, I won't. No. But I tell him to go home.
Please, don't feed him, whatever you do.
We don't see it. Telling you, he's coming to see his boyfriend.
I got you, it's for you, and I know you're talking about it.
Yeah. It's fine. It's telling us every day. Everyone's like, It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, there it is.
I don't know where he ends up. It's nowhere in the world.
So it's 6:30, we're gonna start our meeting. So it is 6:30, December 11th, or January 11th, 2023. Regular planning and zoning meeting, members present are Sean Ammett, Kent Peterson, Cameron Spenlove, Wyatt Lee, Ronald Gooch, and, oh my gosh, Angelia Glacier. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, the other day I forgot Kent's name. Angelia is our alternate. One of our alternates. She's here, I'm happy to have her with us. So conflict of interest, Sean,
No,
Kent,
No,
Cameron, no, Wyatt, no, Bronwyn,
No,
Angelia, any conflicts?
no.
All right, so we'll move on to item number C, review of possible approval of draft minutes for December 12th, 2022. Does anyone have any problem with the draft minutes? Sean?
I went through them quite extensively and changes got fixed. For now, so the draft you're looking at probably should be pretty good.
You sent some changes earlier, but I don't say it. Perfect.
I had a couple, but I'm.
We gotta speak now.
No, I don't remember. I'll help you out.
Ken, did you have anything on those draft minutes?
No.
They look good to me.
Yeah,
Go ahead. I'll entertain a motion, Ken.
move that we accept the draft minutes of December 12th.
I have a motion to
Second.
approve the draft minutes for December 12th, 2022, and I have a second. Kent made that motion, Brown seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Commissioner comments? Anyone have, any of the commission members have anything for this meeting?
I had a lot, but you're gonna be spared this time.
Can we push those to the end?
Sure.
Yes.
You wanna make that motion?
Motion, we move commissioner comments to the end.
Second.
I have a motion made by Sean and seconded by Bronwyn to move the commissioner comments to the end of the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next one is discussion with vote reconfirming or replacing planning and zoning chair and planning and zoning pro temp.
Make a motion that we reconfirm Cameron as the chair of planning and zoning.
I second.
Wyatt's making motions. Bronwyn has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion, further discussion on the motion? I have discussion. If someone else would like to chair this meeting, I would be very, very happy if they would. I've been chairing this meeting I had a little break with Misty for a little bit, but it's been a long time.
You do a fantastic job, yeah.
Well, thank you, but if anyone else wants to chair this meeting, please.
Put that word "want" in there and you're not getting anything.
Does that mean that you don't want to, or does that mean
Yeah, what does that mean?
I really don't want to, but
you with excitement accept the nomination?
with exuberance. How's that one?
That's a big word.
If there's no further discussion, we'll vote on it then. Sorry. Sean,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Cameron, no, Wyatt, yes. Bronwyn.
Oh, yes.
All right, we still have to do chair pro tem. Thank you, kind of.
You're welcome, David.
I appreciate your support. Chair pro tem.
What is a chair pro tem?
They chair the meeting when the chair is absent.
I'll do that as long as you never miss a meeting.
That I cannot promise. I know there'll at least be 1 or 2 meetings.
I nominate Robert. Gooch, to do chair pro tem.
Ken's made the motion to nominate Bronwyn, Gooch for chair pro tem. Do I have a second?
Oh, look at this. Oh, somebody's in trouble.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. Kent made the motion, Cameron seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Now we'll vote Bronwyn,
Yes.
Wyatt,
Sure.
Wyatt was yes,
Yeah.
Cameron, yes, Ken,
Yes.
Sean.
Yeah, whenever you get into, yes.
I'm gonna miss every meeting now. And you really put it on your schedule, every meeting. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to number 3, open forum. So. I really do appreciate it that you guys think I do a great job. But. Thank you. I don't want you to think I'm just being rude or anything. Just been doing it a long time.
You're blushing, so you
I
know.
know. Can't help it. Don't say it, they can't tell on the video.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 3. This is open forum, 2 minutes per speaker. This is to discuss anything that, regarding land use that is not on the agenda. Or general plan,
So anything you want to talk
that's not already on the agenda
about?
for public hearing. Is there anyone that has anything? All right, do you have something?
Yeah.
Perfect. Come on up to the mic and state your name.
Lyman Everett.
Up at the mic.
When you come up to the mic, it's so the people can hear you on the certain call.
Lyman Everett. I'd like to speak about the zone change.
Okay,
I do have heartburn about it. It is a very quiet residential neighborhood. And by making it, doing the zone change, you're turning this quiet residential neighborhood into a commercial area. I don't know if you guys know this, but the house that they've already started on, it's my understanding that it's gonna be over 14,000 square feet and have beds for over 30 people. That's just one of the lots. If the other lots are comparable or even half of that, it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be, you can call it a residence or a house if you want, but something that's 14,000 square feet that has 30+ beds is not really a house. That's a hotel. And by doing that, I wonder why you have zoning at all, if you're just gonna let anything happen anywhere. There's nobody to police it, the parking, the noise. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I think it's insane.
thanks, Lyman, I appreciate it. So we will, those will need to go down into the public hearing section. But we can do that later. Thank you, Lyman. Anyone else have anything, 2 minutes per speaker for the,
Oh, I did it a long time.
you're all right, sir. It's no problem. No problem.
We'll let you do it again.
That's enough.
All right, if there's no one else, then I'll take a motion on number 4.
I make a motion that we close the public meeting and open the public.
White's made the motion, do I have a second?
On the second.
Ken seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so now we're into the public hearing section. Those comments that were just made by Lyman Everett should be considered for this first item up on the public hearing, which is the zone change for observation estate subdivision. Currently rural residential to add the short-term rental overlay. If passed, would make this subdivision a short-term rental. Well, would make, so that's a little bit, if passed, it would make the subdivision eligible for short-term rental to be built in it.
From my understanding of this. Based on.
The subdivision has already been recorded as such. Okay, but we're gonna take public comment on it, right?
And sure.
Anyone else have any public comment on the short-term rental, overlay? Thank you.
Hello, Valerie Lenz. When you consider this overlay, I'd really like you to consider the impact of a 14,000 square foot house with 37 beds. Even getting that number of people to the house before people are in a car, you're talking about 9 vehicles. Times 5, you're talking about 45 vehicles. Where are they going to park? There's a potential of being up to 90 vehicles. They're going to be parking on the streets. The impact of those cars getting in and out of SR9 means that everyone who lives in our lovely quiet neighborhood are not going to be on time for work, for school, for a doctor's appointment, for a dentist, because we're going to be waiting for all of these vehicles to go in and out. And that's not including the cleaners, the maintenance people, the repair people, the caterers, because this is going to be a party house. And it's a potential to be 5 party houses with no on-site management and no on-site security. I think the impact is not just affecting the people on our street, it's affecting the whole neighborhood and traffic going on east and west on SR9. We know what the traffic is like during season. It's awful already. So adding that much to it, I think would be a disaster. And then there's also the impact of noise, light pollution. I think you should really consider it's not just about that little neighborhood, 14,000 square foot houses. And each one of those houses only has 1 water meter. For 37 people, that doesn't make sense to me. Also, the septic system. 2 of those lots sit right above the pond on the Munn property, which drains directly into the river. So we could have water quality issues too. So I don't know whether you can, I know you say that this is just a housekeeping issue, but it's not, because we didn't get to have input the last time this happened. So the process really needs to start from square one. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, my name is Darren Taylor. I'd like to speak in support of the nightly rental overlay for Observation Estate. I currently own one of these lots and purchased it under the understanding that it was approved as nightly rental. So in that process, we conducted our due diligence, spoke with the developer extensively, as well as members of the city, and received assurances that it was reported as nightly rental. As such, we have invested significant resources in our plans and development for the home. I can't speak for plans for other homes in the subdivision, but I can say ours is not 14,000 square feet. We have plans for adequate on-site parking, and I'm sympathetic to the concerns of those nearby. But we have concerns of our own if this were to change course. We have invested significantly and would not be interested in pursuing any legal avenues. So I speak in support and urge the council to proceed as state plan and approve the nightly rental over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia Roddy, zoning administrator, I just want the public to know that no plans have been submitted to the town at this point for, I've not reviewed any plans from this house or any others in that subdivision. And that they will meet all required town ordinances as well as fire, septic, and building. When they're reviewed, so. Thanks, Gene.
Joel Wallace.
Joel.
Yeah,
Joel. I'm so happy you're coming to speak. I just love the sound of your voice for some reason.
thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm concerned about this subdivision because we own a home that's just north of it. And we own 2 lots, 2 acres just north of the subdivision that overlooks White Bison and the Observation subdivision. Is there any criteria on if this is to take place, this short-term subdivision, on a block wall or some kind of a buffer on the back of these homes, these vacation homes they're going to be put there? Is there going to be block walls? Is there going to be what kind of lighting is going to be in that subdivision? And my concerns too are off and on SR9 at 700 West, Highway 9. We already have an issue there with balcony 1 and Buffalo Trails. I have issues about the septic system too. I'm sure that this gentleman's had his perk that learn and it passes. But what impact is that going to have on our river? And on these lots, is there going to be one dwelling built on each lot? Are we going to have multiple homes, shops, guest house built on those lots? And if there is, are they going to have water meters on those particular other homes, or are we just going to let them tie in with the power and water whenever they want? These are issues that I'm concerned about. If this short-term subdivision actually happens, and this short term, is this till it becomes long-term, or until it's voted on again? How long is this short-term actually last? That's all I have.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Ryan Anderson. I was the developer on this project. As someone already stated that, you know, we went through this, we got everything signed a little over a year ago, back in November, it's November 28th. Everything was approved and done and platted and finished, and I guess something was not done properly, maybe on the city side, I don't know, but, so they started, made us go through this. Jump through these hoops, and some of the concerns, you know, they can't build whatever they want, they still have to follow city code, they still have to go through the fire department, they still have to go through the county with their septic systems. They can't do whatever they want here, it's gonna be safe, it's gonna be like, they're gonna contribute just like any other household in the town, so if another house was building and had to put in a septic tank, it would have the same effect on the groundwater as anyone else, but. I mean, we feel like this is gonna be a really big asset. They're gonna be beautiful houses, I only seen one plan, and it is well under 14,000 square feet, the plan I've seen. But I'm here after, if anyone has any questions or comments, do I think I'm happy to talk to anybody. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Sharon Bagley. I own a property running along 625 down, but I really would like to see a block wall required. I know other towns have had a lot of problems with subdivisions like that are short-term rentals with a lot of partying going on, and others like St. George, like Rockville. I would like to see the privacy not taken away from me. If that's a possibility, I would like the planning and zoning to look at that before they make any things. And another thing that's happened is I have a new subdivision in my area, and they're 3rd-acre lots, and the 3rd-acre lots now have 2 homes on the 3rd acres. I'm just wondering if that would happen to those lots, where they can put 2 or 3 homes there, which increases the traffic, which increases everything that these people have talked about. Thank you.
Sharon, can you answer a question real quick?
Sure.
With the 3rd-acre lots, are these the ones up by the cemetery?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Justin Christensen here. I think it's important to note that it's not, that the short-term overlay doesn't guarantee that it's gonna be a short-term rental house there. Yes, there's gonna be a house there, and any of these issues are gonna, be natural, the septic, the water, cars, to any house being built. If you look at Washington County as a whole, in some of the short-term overlay neighborhoods, 30 to 40% end up being short-term rentals. And that's a property right, and so it's not guaranteed these are all gonna be short-term rental. It's important to keep that in mind. The town is looking at this and just assuming that they're just gonna get overran, and that's not the case.
Dustin, question, your interest in this?
Just public comment about, the area. I mean, I'm obviously working on some developments as well, so, I think it's important to note on all of these that they're not all gonna end up as short-term rentals. You might have a small section of these end up as short-term rentals, but it's not gonna be every house. It's being looked at like these are, hotel subdivisions, and they're not, it gives the property owner the right to rent the house in the short-term rental if they so choose to. That doesn't mean they're going to.
Do you have an idea of how developers can mitigate to neighbors and landowners around them?
I do.
Or to us?
So I own 25 short-term rentals. Very familiar with the process. It all comes down to good management, right? You're screening guests before they come in. You're asking how many people are gonna, be in their party. We have noise monitors in all of our houses. We have direct line of communication with the neighbors. It's all about the management. And, setting these up properly, and the city setting up good management, like requiring, certain managers is all about how you mitigate the risk, right? So, you have what the town's experience is right now is a bunch of unregulated short-term rentals. You have a bunch that don't have business licenses. Those are ran like the Wild West. You know, in these neighborhoods where in the CCNRs, you have to have one dedicated manager, you're gonna have a professional manager managing these. They're not gonna let these get out of control. I've had short-term rentals for 5 years. I talk to all the neighbors, you know, it's something that we take very seriously. And we want to respect the town for it. So it's all about the management.
Thanks,
all I have.
Justin. Thanks, Justin. Anyone else?
You already spoke on one, misspoke, it's actually kind of important, so I didn't realize these were the same people that we have been dealing with, so their plans are in limbo, we'll say, because they're being reviewed on. So I have viewed these plans, but they're with the building inspector and I'll be in communication, but they'll meet all those same requirements. I think.
Gene,
Yes,
would you, for my slow mind, these people, and you're talking about, are we talking about observation?
yes,
All right, and the plans that you're talking about are for the construction or the
for
permit
construction of a home.
of a home.
Any other questions?
And can we put 37 beds in a home in Virgin?
I think what's important,
Line for
this is important to know. When it comes to the town's ability to regulate, we regulate one water hookup, we regulate the size of the home, like it has to fit within a certain square footage. We regulate height, we can regulate setbacks, number of power hookups, things like that. The inside of a home, if somebody wants to turn every home into a bedroom with bunk beds, that's their American right to do so. What we can then regulate is uses, but we cannot regulate how somebody builds their home. So if he wants to build a home that has 37 beds, that's great, but the town's not going to give you a permit to have short-term rentals for 37 beds. Plus, you'd have to meet the fire department. If you fire department sees that as that many bedrooms, they'd have to be sprinkled, they'd have to meet certain requirements like a motel. All that plays into it. So the way I look at it, as far as my job, is to make sure that their outside construction of their home is safe, that it meets all the town ordinances, then it passes down to the building inspector once it has its septic permit, its water permit, and all these agencies look at these plans to determine if it's fitting within their guidelines.
So I understand to some extent that the application to us is premature until we get a final approval from you. But for Mrs. Bagley's concern about maintaining privacy and maintaining trying to think of a word,
I understand what you're saying.
walls and landscaping, trees and things like that. What are the requirements of the town in this case?
In this case, what's in the ordinances is what's in the ordinances, which does not put those things into play. If this body would like to recommend to the council that any short-term rental subdivision has those things to protect it from other zones or from other residences, simply just need to send something through.
So at this time, there is no,
There's nothing in there.
we do that if there's commercial. We have requirements.
That's correct. Well, some commercial, yes. But this body's the one that needs to recommend those changes. The only thing I am doing is enforcing what we have written. And I can't favor in one side or the other. We follow the ordinances as they're written. If it doesn't require such a thing, I can't impose that on the developer. Nor can I say, well, I love the neighbors around them, so we're gonna, or I don't like the neighbors around them, so we're not gonna do anything that's required of the So I have to follow the ordinances exactly as they are. And they don't give place for a wall or for landscaping or any of that stuff. I am not opposed to recommending this body do something like that, because there's some wisdom in that. But it's got to come from this body up to the council for those changes to be made. And I would also note, I've heard it said a couple times, the zone is recorded, the plat is recorded, that's a done deal. What you're going to be working with is the overlay zone.
Can you tell us why there we're not public hearings on
That
that?
has not been established that there was. It was, the mayor noted that in the notes, she didn't see that. No one's went back and listened to the recordings. All I can say, and this was my argument from the beginning, as a council member, there's a recorded plat with all the required signatures, and I am not one of them, just so that you know. Thanks.
break it, stop, hello, everyone.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Stop. And hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Can I ask Jean a question since we have an expert here while I'm giving my 2 minutes?
So if you'd like to discuss with Gene, if you
I
have
can
some
be on the
questions,
record,
if you have some questions for him,
on the record?
yeah, we can ask those, yes, we can do that.
First of all, it's my understanding that the house that we speak of is down at the town right now. It is 37 beds. And it's trying to be put through right now as we speak, right?
It is not with the town, it is with the building inspector, state certified building inspector, it was being held up. We were just discussing.
So you're telling me the plans were not in downtown office here?
They were here.
Oh, they were here. Okay, so it is here.
Understand, bedrooms and beds are two different things.
I didn't see anything about it.
You said 37 beds.
Yeah,
That's not on any plans. Nobody ever puts a plan, there's just been beds.
It-
Just
it-
draw a word.
if I told you somebody saw those plans and they did see 37 beds on that, would you disagree with that? You say that's wrong?
I can't remember.
Okay, all right, just throw it on the record. Okay. For the record, somebody that I know has seen those plans and it does show 37 beds. Okay. So I'm saddened to say this evening that for the first time since we've lived in that neighborhood, which has been 16 or 17 years now, I had to put up no trespassing signs. Because of Airbnb traffic, people are, everybody knows when you go somewhere, one of the things you like to do when you have free time is go for a walk in the neighborhood, whatever. These people are walking onto our property. I've never had anybody that runs the Airbnbs in our neighborhood come up to me and make any kind of a connection whatsoever. So the connection this gentleman was talking about is non-existent in our neighborhood so far. We have a lot of Airbnbs. We're prepared for it. We understand that's the person's right. We're okay. We're okay with somebody building a house on these pieces of property here, but when we bought our property, we saw, oh, it's 1 house per acre. This is really nice. We got a buffer between everybody. We bought into that. We bought our house. Everybody else in our neighborhood did the same thing. It was 1 house per acre. You know what you're dealing with. The average for a house right now in Utah is 2 people. When we saw that the plans for this thing was going to be an Airbnb with possibly 37 people, possibly 5 lots with 37 people in each house. And that's not because there's a restriction at 37, that's just the number they came up with. It could be 57. Is there any regulation to stop anybody from putting 100 people in a giant 2-story house in these lots? Is there anything right now?
Absolutely.
There is. What is that?
Short-term rental use is not allowed to have any short-term units within a house.
What does it allow?
I have to reference that. I don't have to worry about it.
Okay, so you can't prove that that's the case.
So we'll discuss this. This is public comment.
Yeah.
We can keep it to public comment. Thank you.
Okay, but there is a number. Do you know what that number is?
Well, I can tell you right now.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute,
Okay.
because other people have the same concern. So.
Okay, so another one of my concerns is you basically have changed the neighborhood into a business district now. These are units put there to make money for people. They don't have to live there. Am I correct on that? They don't have to live there anymore, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how does this become a house in a neighborhood? This is a business. This is some way for somebody to make money on this piece of property in this neighborhood where everybody else has agreed to put 1 house on an acre and live there as a family or whatever they want to do. As far as I know, is there any restrictions on how big the house can be? As long as it fits on the lot? Is there any restrictions on that? Do we know?
We don't, we'll put that down.
I guess it would make you feel better. Okay. Okay. So if there's not, in theory, that house could go to the setback of the entire lot and be 2-story and house again, who knows how many people. So my point is, number one, I think you should vote against this kind of thing, especially in a residential neighborhood. I don't think it fits. I think it's a nuisance to the neighborhood. I think it's dangerous to the neighborhood. I think there are people that are going to be affected by it who shouldn't be, because again, they bought into something that you guys zoned in the first place. We didn't zone it. You guys made up the zone. We bought into it and now you're changing it.
And I think that, again, that these people don't even live on this property. They have no vested interest in what goes on in this neighborhood. They say they do, but make them prove that. So far, they haven't proved it. And as far as this meeting happening without a public comment, Sean, you said it's not a big deal. Public comment is a big deal. We have a right to have voice our opinion about what happens when something happens here. And for you to say it wasn't a really big deal, you missed something.
Could take
You missed
whatever
a big
context.
thing.
Sean, Sean,
You missed a big thing. Public comment.
Please
no, there's not.
keep it to the ordinance at hand, the public comment.
That's what I'm doing. I'm making a public comment.
So you don't have to direct it that directly at me. though.
But I'm rejecting your comment about this public meeting.
Please continue.
Okay, so again, I would ask you to vote against this thing. I think it's not right for the neighborhood. I would love to take my no trespassing signs down at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any public comment on this? Angelia, I guess you can do it now, or you can wait till
Go ahead. Here.
So Angelia Glazier, I have a property down this road, so that's why I just thought I'd get up and talk really quick about it. I definitely can understand some of the concerns, especially I get frustrated as well as everybody else probably does on trying to get out on SR9, especially during the busy season. With that, I do want to say that from working with this committee and having done real estate out of my own outside of the town, I do know how important it is to this council, and how much work they put into it. And I do trust that they will follow everything to the ordinances and laws that our town currently has. I do see, I know it's their right to talk about this subdivision, and I don't want to see a 14,000 square foot house. I will say that. I will say that's, from my understanding, very unlikely to the size of the lots and how strict the health department is with septic systems. I know a lot of, anyway, I guess I'm just saying, as someone who does live in the area, I don't see it as something that's going to blow up and cause I guess I don't know, I'm saying that I trust the council and how hard they put into it. I also know that developers, they're gonna be really invested into it because they don't make money if their place is loud. They get noise complaints and they get the police called on them and they get bad reviews and all these things. Like, I think the developers are invested to the point that they want to make it nice for people to rent it. And it would be nice to have them come and talk a little bit more. I think it's great that this gentleman came and did talk about his. I would like to see more of that. I know how invested the Staples, for one, were invested into making sure that there's had some restrictions that they were trying to sell. So I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks, Angelia. Any other public comment on this item? Okay.
Jay Lee, and, I'm glad that, Chairman, that you mentioned this is a public hearing. What I heard going on between, council member, planning board member and the, planning zoning member was something that should have been reserved for this next meeting that you guys are having. If any of you gone, I think, next week you're gonna be, or next month you're going to training. And in that training, all of them I've been to, and a public hearing is for you to listen to the public and not make comments back. That's something we keep doing, and it's really hard to not make comments back. But I would just like to say, I lived here in Virgin probably as long as anybody, over 70 years, and I live just right up the street here, and actually they 1 acre lots. Our whole block there is zoned residential, quarter-acre lots. And right across my wall that I had built 20 years ago, there's now one vacation rental and 2 residential homes. And I think, everybody is afraid of change. And we hear that, we always hear this fear mongering about what's gonna happen, what's gonna take place. But I tell you what, one of the vacation rentals been there for 3 or 4 years, and I've met people from all over the world. France, Germany, all over the United States, and they have been so kind and so considerate. That, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jay. Anyone else have any public comment? Okay. All right, so if there's no more public comment on that one, we will move to, okay, so there'll be a correction in the schedule, item number B in our public hearing will be stricken as this ordinance has been reclaimed by the city council.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yes.
So Utah state law says that if a recommendation is not made by planning and zoning in a timely manner, the city council and the mayor may take up the issue, and it will be considered a recommendation from the commission as a denial. So because the city has, the town council has taken it back to them, to their own body, they've taken it away from us.
So does that mean it's denial to remove the ordinance, or what happens?
So the recommendation would be a recommendation of denial for the changes that were proposed in that ordinance.
And that was to remove it completely.
Yes.
So now does the council get to propose new changes, or what is that process?
The council can either accept the recommendation, reject the recommendation, or make alterations to the ordinance,
So basically.
whatever they want.
At then now.
Yes.
Okay. So you're just sending it back to them?
No, they took it back.
Excuse me.
Go ahead and come up and make a
Yes,
comment. That's fine.
thank you.
Just realize we're not doing anything with this ordinance tonight.
Brian Lee. So I'm just trying to understand, you're saying that, here's my question. What is the current status of the recommendation going to the town council at this point?
The status would be the Planning and Zoning Commission, because of their inaction, has recommended denial of this ordinance.
So the ordinance as proposed to us was to completely delete chapter 60.02.
Yes, that's what I'm here to comment on tonight, but I'm unable to because you're saying it's not even in your.
You can comment if you want, but we can take no action on this ordinance because we've already recommended denial.
Well, we didn't by default.
They're de facto saying you did deny it because you didn't act on it.
Correct.
What was that time period that you had to act on it?
It does not specify in Utah State Code, it just says if a substantial amount of time, some language similar to that.
You guys are working on it, though, so how does that?
So,
Well,
yes, okay, so we're not gonna get into this debate now. If you want to take that up at the town, you can. If you have comments you'd like to make for the record, then
Okay, I have a comment.
Feel free.
Minutes to get it.
yes, you can, yes.
So again, Ryan Lee, speaking for myself and in behalf of my brother Jeff Lee, who's been at these meetings many times. Fortunately, Jeff's out of town, so he asked that I would come speak. I was here locally. And again, this is in reference to the 35-acre property up here in the Mesa, commonly referred to as the Linda Cliff property. So I'm gonna actually, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna quickly read a short statement from Jeff onto the record. And here's what he said. I would like to restate, so quote, I would like to restate that we were recommended for approval of the short-term rental overlay at the last planning and zoning meeting. We were pushed off last month's town council agenda, so it has not been voted on yet. We are not against removing the short-term rental overlay on future subdivisions. However, we would like to see clarification on your recommendation to approve the subdivisions in last month's meeting, specifically ours, as specifically noted as grandfathered under the old chapter 60.02 if this overlay chapter is deleted from the BULU. The reason we would feel much better if these subdivisions are specifically called out is we are worried if the short-term rental overlay is deleted, there might be a move to say that the cutoff date for applying for the short-term rental overlay zone change was months ago, thus trying to exclude our subdivision, and then later saying it wouldn't be grandfathered. Thank you. It's a close quote. So in short, now this is me talking, not Jeff. We're not really for or against if the short-term rental overlay is taken away. We're just requesting that really what we've been discussing with your town for over a year and a half now, that we want the short-term rental overlay. And just as a quick reminder, when we originally bought that property, the previous mayoral administration was looking for tax bases and tax revenue, and they said we can rezone this to highway resort. That obviously didn't work. But when we came to the meetings in town, even the people that were opposed it said, why are you doing this? Just get the short-term rental overlay. It's allowed, it's legal. And that was always what's been discussed. And that's our expectation at this point. Sorry, I'm only looking over there, not over at everyone else, but so yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a man crush. So and to really be clear, we have no short-term, even near-term plans. We're not planning on developing or even putting short-term rentals up there, and certainly no 14,000 square foot houses. And I understand the concern. We're just simply saying, we're just asking to have this overlay as been told to us for 18 months now. That's it. So I appreciate you listening. That sounds like really I need to be showing up at the town council meeting at this point. But just so everyone, I know it's a small town and everyone talks, so that's our concern. And I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to talk on it, even though we're not doing anything with it? Sure. Why not?
Justin Christensen, it's kind of the same thing as Jeff here. His note is, we've been working on this for a long time, and now it feels like the goalpost is changing. I've done developments in other towns, and typically, you get a development agreement up front, and so the goalpost can't move. That is something Virgin City does not do. And so, we've been working on this for over a year. In most towns, we would have came in current code, got a development agreement, and then if anything changes after, so now we're scrambling to try to, get to the finish line, and everything's been treated very unfairly, which it's leading this town into potential lawsuits with multiple developers. The town does not have money to fight those lawsuits, and it's just very unfair how this whole thing is treated. And you guys are working on the code. I've been to all your meetings. You guys talk about it every meeting. So for them to pull it back and say that you guys weren't working on it is absolutely ridiculous. And so it's just unfair that it's impacting us as developers. And there's no good process in Virgin to get a development agreement up front. And, typically that's done in the very beginning with a set of conditions that if you meet all these conditions, we're going to approve it at the end. That doesn't happen here, and so the goalpost keeps changing. It's very unfair to developers who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars getting plans done, getting architecture, engineering, and then the goalpost keeps moving. So that's my comment. I hope you guys can fix it.
Thank you.
Great to stop again. So it's very unfair for the citizens of this town to not have a voice in what's going on where it's starting. And I feel bad for these guys. If we would have been able to make a public comment in the early stages when this started like you're supposed to do, they may not be going through the trouble that they're going through. Thank you.
Thanks. Move on to item number C. This is discussion about SR9 Co-op Terrace Road to the east end of town. This is back to the DOT map, egress, areas of concern. Any public comment on access to SR9 from Colon Terrace Road through the east end of town?
There's the map.
No, that's not the map. Never mind, I lied. It's fine. You don't.
It's just you and me, basically.
It's you and I.
They're all little inside the town, you know, it's way home.
We do. There's 3 accesses.
You got it, see?
Well, technically, there's more like. All right. No comments on this one?
Gary, what are you guys asking on this?
So we started this process a long time ago and our agenda is finally clear enough that we are working on this again. This is the last section. So what we've been working on is a development plan with street accesses to SR9. We started at the east end of town and now this is. We started on the west end of town and we worked our way through town and this is the last section that we're talking about. Street access.
Yeah, so traffic on the highways, what we're talking about, if anybody has.
The goal from these discussions was to establish access points to SR9. So that when developments came in, we already had a plan for how they would access SR9. Yeah, so this is from Co-op Terrace Road, the rest of the way. Nothing. Okay, number 5.
Too obscure.
Number
Make a
5.
motion, we close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
Second. John's made the motion, Wyatt seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so now we're into the public meeting. I want to try something a little different this time with the, so we're going to talk about item number 8, discussion and recommendation to approve or deny zone change from observation estate subdivision. Currently rural residential to add short-term rental overlay. So I just wanted to take a quick minute and list the concerns that were voiced. Starting here. So the concerns that were addressed were privacy and separation, lighting, egress and ingress on 700 West, utilities hooks up such as septic, water, and power, questions on how long the designation would last. Let's see, more than one unit or more than one home per acre. Regulation on size. Regulations on bedrooms and size, I guess I should say. Yeah, that's, I consider that part of the privacy. Public hearings in the past. Parking. Management. That's what I have. Is there anything that I missed that the public would like to bring back to our attention? Privacy is noise, yeah. I didn't say noise, but I had that listed as privacy. Thank you. All right. Now we'll start our discussion on this.
But I think on-site management was a concern also.
I listed management, correct, thank you. We'll start our discussion now. Start.
So I have a question, just a clarification question, if said development meets all standards required for SPR zone change, are we're legally bound to approve it, correct? Is that? Or
That's a good question, ethically would be probably the proper wording, but it would be. Yes, unless it can be shown that it's not in the public's interest. Okay. And that would have to be shown, not just. Stated that I don't like it.
thank you for the correction.
Yes,
I have a question.
yes,
So I just want to make sure I understand the situation. So my understanding is that this was put through an existing process a couple of years ago to begin with.
yes,
And it was approved all the way to the point that they reported it with the county.
yes,
And the mayor has asked, at least at the town meeting, the mayor asked that just to make sure that everything was. So there wasn't contradictions in process, needed to be put back through, is that correct?
yes,
So they've been told by the city that they've been, so they've met all the city's criteria as far as they understood. And then now they're going back to the process to fix discrepancies in language. Is that correct? In language that describes the process.
yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. So because it's already recorded, our hands are tied,
So the plot's been
the plot's been recorded.
They've already been decided. Those plots-
Yeah, they was, no, I know. I'm asking a question.
So-
for clarification.
Yeah, if we could just,
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, yeah,
sorry,
So I got
we've had public comment, we'll try to keep this with the commission at this point.
so, okay.
So here is. I think your description is good. I think it's a little bit inadequate.
It is general.
Okay, so I think it's missing a couple key points.
Well, that's why I asked. Please tell me.
And one of the biggest ones would be that. When we were being advised by the lawyer, when the short-term rental overlay was written. It was from its inception considered by the town to be a designation, not a zone
That's
change.
it, right?
From the beginning of the construction of this. Okay, so now that determination has changed based on the wording, right? So while this subdivision was going through the process, the short-term overlay was considered a designation, not a zone
I
change.
understand. all
It
right.
was something that you declared during the process,
Yeah, I understand.
and then it was granted
Right,
with stipulations, right? There is some stipulations on it. They have never, this subdivision has never hidden or kept secret the fact that they wanted to do short-term rentals.
I did do some research and they declared it from the first, which was the requirement that the bank, and I'm aware of that.
Yes, and we did have public hearings where it was discussed. So there was no, the mayor can't find where it was noticed and public hearing for the final plat, but we had at least 2 public
I
hearings
read the discussion.
and discussions on the preliminary
I know
plat.
about that. Okay, so that's what you're saying. That's what's trying to be remedied by this public.
Kind of,
Oh,
yes.
yes. Okay.
So if you'll let us continue our discussion, and then if we don't get to your concern or question, then we will come back to
It's
you.
about where you are in this discussion right now.
Yeah, but we may answer your question as we go through the discussion. Thank you. All right, Any other? Let's continue the discussion. Anyone else have some things they want to go over with this?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ken.
I believe that the discussion is good, but I don't believe that we can do anything as regards to approving a short-term rental overlay on this until the town council has approved the final plat.
I disagree with that. Because where it is designated as a zone change, you do not, I do not believe you have to have a final plat to designate that.
I believe that is correct. You would just need the requirements.
Between the two
Right.
companies, we've been the problem. So that's the problem. I wish we would have done commissioner discussion first. We would have clarified a lot.
No, we always do public comment.
I know that commissioner comments, remember who we would have.
Oh.
We probably would have done ourselves some service if we did that first. Sorry.
No, it's okay. If you don't mind, I'd take a second to address some of these concerns that were listed in the question that were asked. Go ahead.
Okay, so first, a couple of concerns, that I heard from you guys, and believe me, and I'll cover this when it's appropriate. It is, what you're talking about is being addressed on a pretty broad scale. Okay, so what we're dealing with right now is the discrepancy between what's been promised and the process that they've been through, right? And what we're obligated to. Okay, the concern about size and how many people they can have in this giant building, that's scary. But there's fire restrictions that will not allow anything close to that without rebuilding. Like, you're not gonna have to worry about something massive like that because the state has regulations that prevent that across the board.
Can you clarify what those state regulations are, just so we know?
My computer was working, but if you will,
But you will make that known public in some way, so we know what that is.
absolutely, and when we get to the end, when I can make my comment,
Thank
we'll know more about that.
Thank you.
So I think there's a lot of regulations that mitigate the concerns that we're talking about, and I guess I wanted you guys to know that as a council, we've been working pretty hard for the last while, especially the last few weeks, making sure that the short-term rental and the discrepancies in the process, which are what are causing so much harder for investors and developers and for citizens alike. We are fixing those, okay? And I wish we would have got to that first, so we didn't have to sit at this meeting feeling, more confused. So my clarification for the concerns on both sides is that we understand that investors have made money, the promises have been made, and we understand our obligation to honor those. We also understand the concerns of the town and the people and the short-term rental situation here will be changing immediately, okay? So we have to honor both, we have to respect both, and we're on it. That's what I want to say.
So thanks, Ron. Does that mean you're announcing something?
I would have.
No, I mean that you're running for county. Oh, okay.
No, I'm just saying that in our work, did I say the wrong thing?
Yeah, no, you just said, you said council instead of commission.
Oh, forgive me.
So I want to hit some of these points, right? So buffers and rules, we do not have anything that requires fencing for short-term rentals or for any other subdivision. We don't, the town does not require walls or fencing for subdivisions.
So that's something they have to.
This, the town
Residential.
for residential. In residential, we do not require anything. The town does have a noise ordinance. So the town's noise ordinance would be in effect. Lighting, the town does have lighting standards that will have to be met. Those standards are being worked on by Kent to update them a little bit, but we do have lighting standards. For most lighting, we do require them to be downlit and shielded. Not all, but for most. We're working to update those to include color and a few other things to clarify them. As far as septic goes, all the septic stuff is approved by the health department, that we have no say, we have nothing to do with that. But one lot has one septic, no more. So they're all individual, so they will all, one lot only has one septic system, which includes the tank, the leach lines, and a backup leach line area. As far as water meters and power meters, those things are one per lot. We do not allow them to be split and have 2 meters per lot, only one. The designation would last forever. Until the zone was changed or eliminated and compensation was given for those changes. But that would have to be made by the council, right? And then compensation would have to be provided. As far as 2 houses per lot, so for a long time, we have allowed casitas. We've had regulations on casitas and their size. We still have regulations on their size when the casita is not a part of the main structure. But when the casita is part of the main structure, the state of Utah said we can't regulate that. As far as size of the home, we do not have a size limitation on residential properties. We do have a height limit of 25 feet in the residential area, and we have recommended that the commission restrict SPR to no more than 5 bedrooms. That recommendation has already been made. It's sent to the town council. Fire code is 5 bedrooms as well, or else they have to be sprinkled, right? That doesn't mean they can't do them, but it means they have to be sprinkled. We have made the recommendation that 5 and no more for a short-term rental. 5 bedrooms, no more for a short-term rental.
They can have a bigger house, they just can only have 5.
Correct.
No more than 5 units that are
Yes.
being utilized.
So if someone builds a house, they can build the house size they want, but if they want to use the use of a short-term rental, we have recommended no more than 5 bedrooms.
That is not going through county.
That is not, we've only recommended that. Parking, off-street parking, we do not have requirements. We have discussed those, and I know that the town council has worked with other developments to have parking restrictions added to developers' CCNRs in the past, but we currently don't have anything other than we do have a off-street parking regulation in the town as a whole. As far as management in these subdivisions, it was stated by one of the comments earlier, but just to clarify, if a short-term rental subdivision overlay or zone is done, every property within that subdivision must have one property manager. Must be one property manager. That manager's name and number will be provided to the town office so that it can be given out to any residents that need it. We require one manager so that within a subdivision, there's only one point of contact for all things in that. I think that went through all of the ones that I had. As far as this goes, you still had a comment.
Well, first of all, the manager, the concern was an on-site manager.
They're not on site.
Right, so that. Tell me your name again, I'm sorry.
Bronwyn.
Ronan?
Yes, that's something
Ron.
that's being addressed in the.
Ronan.
second word.
So-
Record.
I go back to your part of the discussion where you say you have an obligation to let these people do what they want to do because you made it.
Not
clear.
what they want. no.
Well, whatever it is that you've agreed to back from the beginning,
Whatever they follow the regulations, whatever they follow the procedures and the ordinance.
Ron, let's let him finish.
so you said you have an obligation because we started into this process with them to let them do what it is, it's whatever, yeah. So my point is, again, if we go back to when you started this process, if it was done correctly. And the public was given a chance to speak, it might have gone a different way, so that negates whatever kind of agreement you made with them back in the early days, because with that agreement that you made, there was no public comment, there was no. Usually when you live in a neighborhood, when something's getting ready to happen in your neighborhood, you get notified from the builder and the city that, oh, something's getting ready to change it and everything. We never got any of that stuff.
Yeah, and I-
We had no idea this was even happening until somebody saw the plans for this giant house down.
So
I can-
let me address that for a second, okay? I'm gonna try to address this again.
Okay.
The preliminary plat was public notice and had a hearing on at least twice for the preliminary plat. Because I wasn't chair of the commission then, I sat on the commission then. It was better days.
No,
There was a lot of discussion in the town. And I know some of your neighbors knew that this was going in.
Could you give me?
I understand, I'm just
Make
saying,
me feel better, give me a name, one name.
well, I can tell you that, Dean Woods sat on the commission when this went through.
Okay, you never told us that.
And I know that there was also discussed with somebody else on that street because there was trouble with drainage and getting
We
the
we knew all about the drainage, that's not my concern.
the drainage for the subdivision.
Yeah, we knew all about that, we were kept in the loop. Gene came out and talked to us, Matt came out and talked to us, we knew what was going on there, we didn't know what was going on with buildings on this property.
Oh, you're saying you didn't know it was gonna be, have short-term rentals in it?
We didn't know that, we didn't know the size, we didn't know any of that stuff.
Gotcha.
Until a couple weeks ago.
Thank you.
And again, because you guys didn't bring that up, because we didn't know about that, you don't owe anybody anything, because you did it incorrectly in the first place.
Okay, thank you. I think we understand your point. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, please.
Sean?
Bring it back. Okay, to address a little bit about this. Why this is something simple is because we have the law right in front of us. We follow the law as best we can, despite this discrepancies. This is a zone change. We look, we read through the things. Does it meet those? That's what we're talking about tonight. Is the zone change? We're not talking about the size of the building. That's completely something separate at a different time. An STR permit is way down the road for whatever buildings are gonna be there. We only have to look at recommending whether or not the zone, it meets the law and the zone is there. Unfortunately, this didn't come up last month when we had discussion for three other ones of these at the same time. All these were discussed. The motions were made according to what discrepancies they may or may not have still had in meeting the requirements for the final plat. This one has a final plat already approved. So this should be, it's followed all the laws. We just have to make sure there's a couple more things. I do have a couple questions for the developer, for Ryan Anderson, about CCNRs, because that's in the law right here. We have to make sure that it actually states they can do STRs. I want to ask him a few other questions because I don't remember if you're still back when it was approved, what was in those CCNRs, and I love to read CCNRs for some strange reason. But I don't remember what exactly was in there. So if you could address a couple questions, that would be helpful. We can move this along because really we're addressing a zone change.
Yeah, as required by the city, we had to record CCNRs against this lot, which does entail that it is approved for a short-term rental. And also the other thing that it did talk about is the manager. Those were two things that the city brought up.
And those are in the CC.
Those are in the CCNRs, they're recorded against all the lots, and they're already recorded. I did bring a plat with everyone's signature, including the council, everybody, that if you guys want to see that, to show.
Do you have in your CCNR anything about, just for our information, about size of dwellings?
No, just follow the city.
Okay.
I mean, everything else,
It's just
follows
that-
what the- yeah, follows what the city, what the city codes are.
You have a minimum size though, it's 5,000 square
Yeah.
feet, correct?
I don't remember the minimum size, but it probably is.
Yeah, I know
They're acre lots.
some of the other subdivisions they approved have specific, you can't have it over this size, you can't have it under this size.
I don't think we put a maximum. I do think we put a minimum. We didn't want them really small. And that was a concern back in the meetings that we attended a year or so ago. That there was a concern about putting up a bunch of little tiny homes on the lots, which is not allowed. You know, we have to follow the city, whatever the city requires as far as buildings.
That's, is there anything on, in your CCNRs about off-street parking? Or specifically?
I don't, it's been a while since I've read them. I don't remember the parking requirements. I do know that. That's a good question. I think it might say in there, no on-street parking.
If I remember right, there's something in
Do you
there,
remember?
so, I mean,
I wish I would have brought those as well. I didn't bring those. I didn't bring the plat. I didn't bring the, CCNRs.
thank you. Okay. I was specifically asking those because those are two of the points that in some of the other ones we had. They hadn't addressed those because they don't have a final plat. Approved. Those have been addressed, so.
There has been no final plat. Property under state law, modified rule 18.10 C and D.
I think that could be true. I think that's contested. I think there's evidence on both sides that it's true or not true.
Solve that.
I think the way we solve it is by what we're doing now. So what you're stating, if I understand you right, and is that you would prefer to make this recommendation alongside the final plat and not.
Right.
So. The issue in that road is we are. Tonight looking at the zone change.
You can look at it, but you can't do anything about it until the planning or until the town council approves the final plat, the property, and by state law.
According to our law here, it says we can.
But your
do
law
a
doesn't
zone change. We
You
can
have
do
to do
it
it by
by state.
state law too.
We can do it with zone change. It's a separate thing. That's why we're doing a separate public hearing and a separate recommendation. So otherwise, they're in conjunction. That's how they were originally done, was in conjunction with each other. And then we were told, no, we have to come back and do a zone change separately. Because he has his recorded, it's gonna be really hard pressed to say it wasn't done. It's done, it has signatures, it's done. So
It
this
is
is
done
a zone,
illegally by state law.
this is, a-
And you're setting your fuss in the city up for lawsuit.
you can't decide that.
But you're
I'm confused why the state law is coming into the city zone change.
The state law says that you have to have a public hearing for the final plat.
Thank you.
So Ken, I understand your concern.
I just think. that-
No, I understand.
But I worry that we're doing something that we can't do
Yes.
until the town council
Makes a decision on.
makes their decision on the final plat.
Can you, so
And they may not.
I'm
They
looking
may,
at,
they may kick it back like we're trying to do here most of us.
I'm looking at chapter 60 right now. I don't see anything in chapter 60 that requires a final plat for the zone change to short-term rental overlay. Can you, maybe, I might be missing it. Can you point to where that is? in
My
ordinance?
memory is that we have an ordinance that says we as a planning and zoning can't recommend a zone change for overlay, short-term rental overlay, until the final plat is approved.
I'm just trying to see where that says that.
Well, we've already discussed it in other issues with other situations.
Because they
A
didn't
couple of
have,
months ago.
they're not even.
Why didn't I argue against the planning and zoning that we couldn't move forward until the town council gave a approval of the final plat? And that's where my argument is. And I don't remember what we're going to do, whether it's 18 or 16, but
There's a discrepancy in
Yes.
our ordinance.
Yes, so the problem is, Ken, and I've been pulling my hair over this, and that's why we have all these changes that we have to make with this short-term rental overlay zone. It's been a terrible tool and caused a lot of grief. So you're right in the discrepancy, you're right. Part of our ordinance is saying exactly what you're saying, and part of them is saying exactly the opposite. And that's why we've ended up in 4 situations where the developers were promised something based on one version, and the town had a legitimate grievance based on the other. That's why it's so important that we fix this. As things stand right now, this particular development started long enough ago, and according to what the regulations were then, they actually did do what they were supposed to. They did do what they were supposed to. That's not what it says now, so we have put ourselves with 4 ordinances in a spot here that makes it so everybody's unhappy, and that's really sad, and I hate that, and that's why we have to make sure that, you know, our next meeting eliminates this disaster. You know, so you're right, and there's 2 rights here, and they're both wrong.
and I'm trying to make it as expeditious as possible for the development to get it done right. So this doesn't happen.
Right, but we can't fix that tonight, we have to fix our ordinances, so.
Okay.
That's what we're working on.
All right, thank you. We're kind of spinning in circles here. Is there any more comments on this? Any other items you want to discuss on this?
Yeah, can I have a second, or is my mom?
Sure, go ahead.
You mentioned something about, if there's a casino or another home built on that lot. Or multiple living dwellings on each lot in the subdivision, will they have to put in another water meter hookup?
No. No, they cannot. There's 1 water meter per lot.
But they can put multiple dwellings or buildings on those lots?
They are allowed to have a detached casita. A1.
On the water, same one.
Same water meter, same power meter, same sewer system. It's that way throughout town. Yeah. So I see where Kent's reading this. It says, subject to the conditions set forth in this section, an owner of a real property may apply for and obtain simultaneously with the final plat. Okay, so that says may, not shall. That's permissive, that's not required language. So I get that. All right, go ahead.
I just have one more comment. You know, in the process of development, I've done several developments. Normally, this stuff is determined way before your final plat. You know, this nightly rental overlay is done well before your plat. So I don't know why you're requiring that the plat be recorded first before the overlay. That, I mean, you kind of set yourself up to say, if someone has an existing subdivision that's already been recorded, now you're saying they can go back and apply for that nightly rental overlay. You know, if you're requiring that you do it that way, if someone has the restrictions of, you know, minimum 5 acres, subdivision that already exists, then they can go back and require this after the final plat. To me, it doesn't make sense. All this stuff is done as a developer, you know, even before we bought the property, we knew what the zone was, we knew what we could do, and that's why we determined to buy the property when we bought it. And we went through the steps that we thought were.
Thank you.
And then I do have the recorded plat. I don't know if you guys want to see that.
No, that's okay. I've seen it. Unless somebody else wants to
Does
see it.
anybody else want to see it?
I've seen it.
Thank you. So to clarify, it says simultaneously with final plat approval, not. before. So
That's true.
listen, we have, beat on this a lot, and I understand that there is real concerns. We have moved to address a lot of those concerns already. And we're continuing to look at those concerns, but right now we have to go with what we have right now. And it is my opinion that this property has met all of the requirements that the town has set forth, with possibly the discrepancy as stated by, Kent. See, I don't just forget your name. So I would make the motion that we recommend approval of the zone change for Observation Estates subdivision to be done with the approval of the final plat at town council.
I'll second.
So Cameron made the motion, Wyatt seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion on that, or does anyone need clarification?
On balance, I don't know if we have a choice. I don't know if we have a choice on that.
Just a further comment, we didn't address it, this being in a residential neighborhood, yes, it's on a residential street, but it backs up to a highway resort. That is a whole resort area. The use of it, I think, is works well in that particular spot. So I just wanted to make that comment with it as well.
Then I get,
Sure, if you want, yeah.
I have to give a compliment to the developer, from the get-go. It was always known what you do. And as I've followed it for the last couple of years, that's always been the case, and that's refreshing, because it's been really difficult for some of the other developments, because they delay until the last minute to declare a request for the STR overlay. And in the times that we're in, excuse me for taking a minute, we have things we have to worry about as a city and as residents as to what's going to happen with our ability to provide promised water to developers. And I think everybody here is aware of what I brought up just now, but we have obligations to people who we promised to make, who are making commercial developments, that will be able to provide water for those developments. It means that going forward, we have to look at and understand and know what we have left to promise future people as they come in, applying for developments and hookups and everything else. And that's something down the road, but I wanted to bring that in because it is an issue of this whole short-term rental and development situation that we sit with water at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Cameron, can you clarify with your motion, the reasoning behind the, with the final plat? That you said, can you just clarify that?
So my motion was to recommend approval of this ordinance along with the final plat when that came up. I just did that just because it said it may be done then, so I think I don't think it's a big concern to delay that. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote. Sean?
Yes.
Ken?
No.
Cameron? Yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on. We'll move on to B. The discussion and recommendation. Okay, so this is chapter 60. It's on our agenda, it was on our work meeting. So as I stated earlier, this city council pulled the ordinance, deleting the chapter from us. They took it back to themselves. Bronwyn had some comments on there, which she
Okay.
suspiciously lost at the last minute. Sean,
that was prepared by both Ken and the mayor.
I think that was prepared by Kent.
Yeah, so.
Ken, was that one, that last ordinance prepared by you, the deleting of chapter 60?
Yes.
Yeah.
You and the mayor, right? Correct. Cole.
Yes. Okay.
So I was just curious where it was offered by someone in planning and zoning.
So they can, because they can with any ordinance, so if we're doing any,
So even working on it.
if we have an ordinance and it sits, yes, if we have an ordinance and it sits here.
But the interesting thing.
So-
So only if they send it back, we can get our new ordinance.
So
Never
here,
mind.
so when the council authors an ordinance, it's been stated from
I
Keith that we act
I got it.
on that written. However, this ordinance was authored by in conjunction
I was
with
gonna
Ken
come
as
to
part of
it,
the
I'm
plan.
sorry.
But they can still pull it.
That's why I
Okay.
just didn't know. Like the, where it was offered by planning and zoning. Take it back. Or take it up.
They can if we are not. So that if we're taking too long,
Right, that's right. So. Yeah.
but Sean,
Have the right.
so let's,
Shouldn't have taken it, they should have let us.
let's move on to, Sean had some comments, some suggestions for chapter 60 as well. We'll move to those comments at this time.
I'm sure Brian has some comments.
Bronwyn did, but she doesn't have hers, so she's gonna share those with us next time.
I'll be on work meeting.
So Sean, if you would like to share what you had with us this time.
It's still the same stuff from last month. Anybody want to look at a copy?
I didn't get a copy. I don't remember you had anything, so I'm sorry.
I was. Let's share one. I've got one on the computer.
It's okay.
Oh, take a look at it. And then get one out one. Okay, fixing the problems, if we're just to take what we have, you know, the whole reasoning behind holding back a little bit on that instead of pushing that through to the town council was because we wanted to look at what some of the things in there that we can change instead of just strike the whole thing. You strike the whole thing and all of a sudden there's holes in there where you have short-term rentals that are there, no regulations. So no permitting process or anything. That's why we didn't act on it and then it just didn't get on the agenda a couple of months. They should have waited for us. But regardless of that, it had the same recommendation. This one, all I've done, I can pull it up. Is we took the word zone. This was determined. Some of that things like right in my way. This was determined many years ago that new subdivisions would be the only place that these could be designated. I just read that in there, that's the only place that can happen. So it's not going to be right in the middle, smack middle of residential neighborhoods that are already developed.
Yes, and the subdivision that's by Kent came in and wanted it, and the town told them, no, you're already done, you cannot have it. Sierra
Bella. And then there's one. And then there is the one up by the cemetery, the Gasco Inn, and then they decided they weren't going to do it. So not every subdivision is gonna say, hey, let's just break it. So I just to note that. So with that, the idea was that if new subdivisions come in and they want that designation, it's available, it's here. But instead of making it, we do the whole process, it's all public, it's all out in the open. But we simplify it to an overlay designation. They come in and have to, at the very first, it designates, they have to have a narrative, they have to say in their application, this, I want to do short-term rental overlay. Designation. So all I did was take the word zone and strike that from here. There's a few things I added. Just to simplify this, for example, I think it's C3, and then those regulations were referring to the concept plan. Where to have concept plan regulations. And the developers are very familiar with what needs to be on those regulations, so I just took them out. And just added them here in red. And so that's what the strikeouts are there. And then, conditions follow those in chapter 16. Then I also took out or simplified and combined some of the things that were redundant. And at the very end, you see some blue. Actually, maybe you might not. There's an A and a B.
Yes, it's there.
Okay. Now these will be properly numbered, like in ordinances. I didn't get that far. These were the statements made during John Staples. During John Staples' recommendation by the town council recommended that we add wording about enforcement. Have them put that into their CCNRs. And so this is in the CCNR section. That they'll put an enforcement statement, and they'll also put a statement about off-street parking. That's why I specifically was asking about that in this. To see if he had something, that kind of wording already. Other than that, I kept everything mostly the same. But it's in our general plan already that we were going to allow for these in town, that there'd be designations of particular spots. We decided that it was going to be the new subdivisions only. And that's where we're at. So I don't see why we have to make the developers jump through a hoop of doing a whole zone change when we have all the regulations they must follow right here. Have to be followed. They have to already do the preliminary plat and final plat. They have to do their public hearings. They have to send out their letters. They have to do exactly the same thing with the zone change. That's why it was done previously like that, because they did everything. Only thing they didn't do was call it a zone change. That was the only problem they had previously. Otherwise, we won't be here today discussing this. So. Okay.
Well, I'm sure we'll continue to discuss this in the future. Does anyone have any quick comments? I know.
I just want to understand, does it go back to council now, or does the council take your recommendation, or what is the process?
So I need to clarify what you're asking about.
You guys were just talking about the chapter 60 revision. I know council pulled it. Are they voting on just removing chapter 60 altogether, or they taking Sean comment and stuff?
No, just removing chapter.
No, I'm just trying to understand the process, because it's so changed a lot.
So they will be discussing and I believe it's in their work meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I can't remember what time. 6. So they have a work meeting scheduled for tomorrow. It is on their agenda. It does not appear from their agenda. They're taking public comment at the work meeting. They probably won't. They just need some time to discuss it among themselves in public.
But they will be discussing and voting on the complete elimination of chapter 60 as it was presented. By Kent and the mayor. 4 months ago, 3 months ago.
That's been a long time.
Yeah, 6 months ago.
September. It's like 6 months and then we tabled it and it was got lost. In September. Okay.
So that's what they'll be voting on. What we're discussing tonight, it will be a separate ordinance that will have its own recommendations sometime in the future. If Bronwyn doesn't magically have things disappear.
Oh,
Okay. All right, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. So what we're discussing would not affect any developments already in progress.
That's what he wanted to do.
That's I think.
That's what he was asking.
That's what our would not affect any developments already,
Yeah, that's.
because our discussion started officially today.
You should-
Now,
And I believe that we have recommended every one of this.
The ones that got caught in the
Yep,
hamster wheel,
we're done with the council's.
yeah.
Perfect.
all right. Ready to go home? Yeah.
I also really appreciate your sense of humor.
Oh, Jesus.
It gets too heavy in here, and so I have to.
Okay,
bring
so
it
we
back.
have to make it better. Pete.
It's just, for some reason, you're the pickup person today. Yeah. It's probably because your dog listens to me all the time.
You can use me as much.
Your dog likes him better than you.
I saw.
Sorry.
So about my dog.
Go ahead. Sorry, bring this back, go ahead.
So are we talking about the highway?
Well, we're.
Yep. We're gonna move on to the next item, the highway. What? No, we're still in our public meeting. We're moving on to. That's it, they're here.
Oh.
Plenty of public.
There's a lot of people here, let's look. I think there's
Yeah.
people here.
Highway action.
Cameron, do you need to vote on that though? But
No.
you're moving it from,
No, we
You
can't.
know, I don't think we're gonna need to vote on that because it has been. So it was placed on our agenda before the council had officially removed it from us.
right,
And so I don't think we need to vote on it.
but you need to vote to remove it from this.
No,
Do we need to? We're no action.
no.
We're just gonna take no
Our hands are
action.
tied. We can't do it. We should have been. off the
We
agenda.
can do it, just do it.
I've
I mean, I
never,
don't know, what do you, you're the chairman.
No, we don't vote.
Jay,
Just take.
Okay.
you read Robert's Rules of Order and all that garbage. You know how things are supposed to be done. Would we need to take action on this item that's been removed from us, but was on our agenda anyway?
But you made it as a point of order question.
So.
So something was on the agenda, town council should take it back from them.
Because we can't.
Do they need to vote to take it off of their
We
agenda,
can't.
or do they just let it be?
We can't be in the order we should.
That's good.
You can have it. Cameron, I bet you have.
All right, so let's do this. I'll make a recommendation that we take no action on item B because
Thank you.
the city council has removed the ordinance from our agenda.
One second, that.
I made the motion, Bronwyn seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Yep.
She had to write something.
Hey, you know what? I've made every motion tonight. It's been
I know you did.
every important one.
Well, you're in charge, baby.
No.
We haven't even- No.
That was not. All right, so we're gonna go to C. right? And I think we could take the next 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and discuss this. This is actually fun discussion. Yeah, this is good discussion, right? Yes, this is planning. This is the planning discussion.
We have a map.
Can you pull us up a map, please? You should be able to pull one up on your computer. as well. You know, Google Maps.
Technically from Broadway roundabout to.
Yes. Go to the roundabout. We can talk about it.
Over my dead body.
Don't say that. I'll see if I know about it.
Yeah, Google Maps. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Great.
All right. So. I think there's one intersection there that we do have to look at. Two. And I think that is. All right, so if you look there, just past Camino del Rio. And I really like. We should just put in our ordinances that we're no longer naming any streets, they will all have numbers.
You are such a stickler.
I know, I am. But just after there, we have a couple of properties, and I think it would be good to designate. The location of the ingress and egress of those properties now. So if the development changes, and so that's if it changes, right? So what they're currently using now, we wouldn't change, but in the future. I think we should change it. And it's specifically right there by the Spenlow. Brett Spenlow's property, and then across the street, you have the old. Boys home,
Yeah.
which is now, you mean, Zion some. Oh, yeah, the Zion G Force, Zion Venture.
That's so tricky.
So when I'm looking at that map. Right there. I see a little. Sliver. I don't know if you guys can see the little sliver
Show us the
on the
slide.
north side of the road.
Triangle there. That's not anything.
Then the point. Yeah.
So it shows it on Google Maps, but maybe the Google Maps is not correct. So on Google Maps, it shows.
It's the.
It's right here.
I guess it's this little triangle here.
Okay.
It is.
But I think that in the future for these two properties. That we should designate that intersection to be right here. On both sides of the road so that it crosses.
Right next to Wildflower, right below.
Wildflower, over here,
Right.
could be behind Wildflower.
Yeah.
But see, right now we have, a horseshoe driveway here. And we have a single road like over here.
Oh, you mean?
Okay, I
At
got
the boys' home, there's a little horseshoe driveway.
Yeah, you're, yeah. Don't they have rocks in front of one of them?
Yeah, I think they do now. Actually, Google Maps shows it in a little different place.
yeah,
Because this gets busy. We can slow traffic down like that.
but you're right, somewhere along there.
Well, it's not our,
I know.
it's not our responsibility, but
But our ideas.
yes, so I think right now what we're doing is looking at designating where these, so say someone bought. Brett Spenlow's old place and they wanted to do some sort of commercial development, right?
Yeah.
So we'd say, okay, you can do your commercial development, but your access is going to be here.
No, yeah, exactly. No, I get it.
And I think that's why we do this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
It's it. Doug spent.
Doug, oh yeah, Doug Spenlow, not Brett. Doug Spenlow, my bad.
And there's a new owner up and down, and then they're gonna try to buy a whole triangle, because there's actually two pieces.
Yeah, that's what it shows on, who's good on that.
There's two pieces, they're gonna try to buy that whole thing, and then have it highlighted. So yeah, that would be helpful to have something there, and I think it's far enough away from the other one.
Now, what are the meetings? Blah, blah, blah.
I don't know, we do our thing and then they do that, and they do everything.
No, well,
So they're supposed to be doing. They're doing a study right now, and so what we wanna do is prepare a document. And then what will happen in the future is, they said, as part of a transportation, I haven't heard about this transportation master plan in a long time. So I don't know if the funding fell through or whatever, but we will do a transportation master plan
So you're just
that will
gonna,
be filed with
so
them.
you're just gonna tell us if everything that's on a document or what, as we get ready, are you just gonna do it or?
As they get closer to that, then I'm sure that planning commission will be involved in that transportation master plan, considering that that's part of the general plan. And it's our responsibility to create the general plan. So I'm sure, just not all of us, but a couple of us will be included in that discussion.
So we're talking about that. So
But intersections are just a part of that, but I want to get the intersections out of the way.
intersections across the highway, that is pretty.
You
I mean, you have to have them, but I'm saying, we're getting on people's slow.
from,
Never.
We-
Just straight intersection.
if we never have an intersection
I
across,
think it would be so straightforward, like, let's stop right on the side and have everybody go and stop.
So that particular location is exactly halfway between Dalton Watch Road and the auto camp and their driveway coming out and Co-op Terrace Road. So that's an ideal spot.
I
Always have extra lane or something, it doesn't just,
really. I agree with you, right? Intersections can be dangerous. That's why we want to put them in areas like right now. Okay, so look, right now we have,
But
Horseshoe Drive.
you want to have,
no, the DOT prefers, and it's safer to have intersections, four-way intersections. That's safer than having one here and then 30 feet another one.
But I'm talking more about extra lanes and,
That's determined later upon use,
okay.
right? So-
So all we're doing is location.
Yes, as far as like road design and stuff, that's what, that will be discussed in the master transportation plan. But I think it's better if we have the DOT and their experts helping us with that, because I don't know.
Well, that's why I was making fun of it, I'm like, yeah, you can't tell me how that's gonna go.
I just want to, I just know that they want they prefer intersections that are crossing each other.
So the scope of this discussion is basic placement.
I would like to see basic placement, yes.
I like where you're going.
Got a question on this intersection you're talking about there, right across the old boys' home, this Doug's been on full place.
Yes,
And then wildflowers clear out to the edge there. So is this gonna go, what side, are you gonna create a second access there for wildflowers since you only have one?
so
No, let's see, they do have another.
they do have an emergency access that
But
they,
just that side of Doug's place is an empty field, it could be.
A roundabout, I know, it could be a roundabout.
You're gonna move it over there, that spot.
yes, that is a difficult location because there is a couple of other properties there. I agree with you. I believe though that the next one that you're talking about with there's a little piece of Wade's and then there's another one that goes up on the hill. And I think the best way to access one that goes up on the hill is actually from Dalton Walk Road.
Yeah, it's already there.
We have a field trip, I want to see, I need to see.
Sure, I'll take you on a field trip.
Thanks, I'm happy to.
Find a nice steep dirt road to take her out,
Hey, you're coming with me then.
as long as you bring the dog.
Oh, here's the ball was.
Okay. You said to the end of town, right?
Yes,
Oh,
What
yeah.
about the old highway?
so why didn't I love the old highway? It's more like a merging lane.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's an intersection.
Merging on the wrong side.
That's how it's going.
You are alive.
Listen, for everyone that's still listening, This is why Wyatt and I have a hard time taking your all's complaints about your intersections seriously.
Every day.
Well, because we have the only intersection in town where someone has actually been in an accident and died at, okay?
Wait a minute.
But,
that's
well,
not
he didn't
fair.
die there.
What, like 20 feet away from
Well,
it.
just because he went on ground.
It's not the only one, was that he disrespected.
Anyway. But that
I
is
got you.
by far the most dangerous
You
intersection.
know, there was a joke there that I held back.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Right, and it was a very sad and terrible accident.
So
And
I really think that no matter. Traffic is gonna be traffic on SR9, whether you're in Springdale, Rockville, wherever. Sometimes it takes you 10 minutes to get on the highway. It is what it is. Whether you're pulling on a business in Springdale, the guy driving semi trucks in Springdale all day, every day. It is what it is. You learn how to deal with it. So I don't. I don't care for the too much traffic comment because you're on a main corridor to one of the biggest national parks in the country. You're gonna have traffic.
so when we're looking at those two egresses and egresses from the SR9, actually the second one's pretty decent now.
The one at all. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm talking about further, the one on the other side of Aunt Jessie's.
50
Oh.
south.
Yeah.
Aunt Jesse, come on, you're gonna help us out.
This.
Budley,
Oh,
it's the
okay.
second 50 south. That one's actually not super terrible anymore.
Can you put a finger on this map?
On the right.
Yeah,
This one isn't bad, this map shows it looking terrible, but it's not. It's not as bad as it
Is
looks.
the old highway there private?
The old highway there is
It's a city road.
50 south,
Is
city
it
road.
private?
No, city road.
City road.
Yes, it's a city road.
We should fix it.
At some point, I'm sure at some point that UDOT and the town would like to fix it, but
It's been discussed.
I don't know how they're gonna fix it, it's gonna be real hard.
But yes, there other access that we should. That would make. There. That would make it a little bit more. So you come straight out and then you can turn either way.
I mean,
I would leave that one so you could just ramp right off, that works perfect.
the hard thing with it is. Right there where that access is, you just run out of room to have a proper intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question.
yes,
The property that was recently approved, I think it's the Lee property, the Allen property, to Highway Resort Zone, I think. I'm not sure where that is here, but we need to consider some access. Is it on that side of the river? It's on the north side of the river.
no, it's on the south side of the river.
It's both.
Oh, yeah, it does cross a little bit, but it's primarily in the south side.
So do we need to consider where there might be an access there? If it's going to be, at this point, if it's going to be some type of highway resort zone and
That'll be.
There's really not, that is something we should consider, yes. But I don't, without a second bridge, I guess we could look at another bridge. That is a good question. And actually, very good question. And I hadn't considered that. Thank you. Would we want to consider another bridge across the river?
it depends on what I think the people want to do up there. I don't. That purple is all highway resort zone. Which I assume it is.
It is.
Then how are you going to, other than Camino Real, whatever that is.
Camino del Rio.
Camino del Rio, other than that bridge. Can it handle as it's coming back the other way to take care of that problem? I'm not sure. Let's go look, first of all, geology, I mean, that's a little interesting. There's a bluff there and a river. But
Bridges are really expensive.
Gene, you had a comment?
Did you guys talk about the space between the boys' home and the table?
We were just talking about-
We talked about that.
So if the town, if they were to give up a portion of each of the property, and cut down street, and then that is one, you could also use that as a point crossing the bridge. Bridge crossing would come until such time as like create a plan and pay for it, so. That's a step ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
I
we
think
need to
I-
be 2 steps ahead.
So I'm looking at this map. And that is an excellent idea, actually, to put an access right there between the boys' home and the KOA. And make that a city street that could cross the river. My concern is then. You cannot do a four-way intersection there, there's not room. So that would leave access to Doug's Spenbrook's old place. I guess we'd want to put it on as far away as we could.
Yeah, I have the bank coming up.
Yeah. How close is it to that little corner lot? It's like it's directly across the street.
Yeah, it would be directly across the street.
But this. That's all owned by the same family. This quickly becomes a hillside. Yeah, there's no.
I don't think you can put an intersection in it.
You'd have to.
Doug Spenbrook's house is this piece right here. So if you put that access here, I guess we would have to push the access to this, to the east side.
Depends on the development.
I don't know how you do it either, because that's kind of a grandfather.
Well, you would only change that if they changed the use.
Which they kind of done.
Have they changed the use?
There's a process.
Well, if they put, if they, whatever, I guess not the use, but it's already zoned, red, rural, it's already zoned highway resort. The concern would be what development they're doing, right? So if the development has more impact than what was already there, then the city would have to look at it.
Well, how do you weigh impact and safety? Even if it's 2 people getting on it.
Because the impact was already, it's already kind of deemed safe, if they're not increasing the impact, right?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who died over there or where?
Can't take it away. It's just there.
You can't take away what they already did,
Right, sure,
right?
sure.
It's whether the house has family living in it or they decide to short-term rental it, I think the same impact. As far as,
Theoretically.
yeah,
Traffic.
Right.
I guess we'd have, that's a good thought, thank you, Ken. I think we should look at that,
Okay.
I think we should look at that, another bridge across the river.
I like that.
And that would be another access for the KOA, so the KOA wasn't using solely Camino del Rio.
That would solve a lot of problems for us people.
It would that be good? If the boys' home ever developed, it would also be beneficial to them because it wouldn't have their people coming straight off SR9 right into the property.
That's true.
They could turn off SR9 onto it.
That would be good. That would go very well, and that makes them feel better.
The only other question would be. Jamie knows, since he owns his property, is there a good spot for a bridge there? That one right there, if you went straight across.
Could you put a bridge there, Jay?
You could.
Could you put
I
a
think
bridge
they
there?
could,
It's all. Across the river there, it's a big flat, like a big.
there is a flat out there,
Plain flat, that would be the only,
and then they would have to go.
because I don't know. Could you put a road down into that?
They would have to build, they'd have to build that road out. And then they'd probably still have to leave a section for large flooding.
Yes. And that's also, I think, about targets when you can park the sewers. I think there it'd be all sewers.
On the other side.
Yeah. Put it there instead of Alan's property. That touches the highway. Where the river bends right next to the highway.
Can't really
On
put it,
the east side of the.
you can't, that would be a hard place to put a bridge.
You'd only have one side of the intersection.
That bridge would be very, very high too,
On the one side.
on the one side.
But it's that's pretty high on that, like it's not.
But there's probably not room there to put turning lanes and stuff.
That's true. They'd have to go there and go down quite a ways to get it.
I mean, they barely made the turning lanes for the,
Yeah.
for that, auto camp work.
Is there any way we can have it go right in front of your house?
You know, you could. I could go right
For the right rights.
I could go right
Don't
through
get
my
it.
house, because my lot's only 30 feet wide, so it's the perfect size. Yeah, 30 by 60.
Just the exact footprint of your house.
Now it's 60 feet wide,
Okay,
60
well,
by 120, I think.
so did you make notes on all this smart stuff you just
I
said?
did.
All right. Did you do
Brian wants to take a field trip, and I'll take her on a field trip,
that? Thank you.
but there can only be 2 of us unless we have a public meeting.
Okay, well, wish you guys are good to come.
All right, you know what it's like.
What do you think, Ken? That was a good idea about it. I like your thought about the
Yeah,
bridge. I
yeah.
never considered another bridge.
Well, I just think about tying all that, put the property. But I'm not gonna put on,
Yeah, good job, that was good.
I know that, I believe that, minimum we now, whatever it is, it's going to eventually get.
Yeah, well, so another road would be great. Lake Stewville. Listening.
Thanks.
No one to talk, one to talk.
No one wants to watch, I'll send you one to another.
Somebody like Al or Jay or. Take them out and say, okay, we're going, we can, someday for that. Somebody put it in on this.
Yeah. And then on that 50 south, we might have to consider looking at moving that first road on to 50 south further east,
My max,
further
Like,
east.
yeah,
oh, by your house. Oh, by-
Past
oh,
my
no.
house, probably. Past my house, probably. Just someday.
So we're in, we're planning Sunday, Sunday, okay,
that's a hard place to do something different.
that's scary.
It is, because the road's very small there. It's got a cliff on the one side.
Well, and you got the hill that's on top on the other side, go further into the hill.
No, you can't get there into the hill. Well, you wanna know why the road's like that? Because of your grandpa.
I know.
So here's what happened.
Yeah.
The power.
Here's what happened.
Story.
The new 50 south used to be the highway, right? So, and then they came in and they wanted to put in the new road. And they wanted to bulldoze Aunt Jesse's house. And put the road through there. And Uncle Bud told them
Okay, now.
they could shove it in probably less nice language than that.
You got one.
And then, so they took him to court with the lawyer and. UDOT knew that they were gonna win the lawsuit, and so they didn't even worry about it, and then they lost.
There's still food in the basement box stuff from when they thought they were gonna have.
They have to move it there.
Still in boxes, all the cans stuff.
And so they lost, and they had to put the road where it is now. And so I think to spite us, they left that intersection like that.
Maybe they'll crash.
They're like, screw these guys, we don't even care now.
Here's the story I heard. And Saturday, grandpa's living room, you know, he's around. And, he asked me about the house. He told me how long ago that was. It was probably.
Long time, he died in 03, so.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
And he told me, with what I can remember of his side of the story, what I remember was that they said they were gonna have to bring the highway right up to the front porch. And he said, no, I don't think you are. And this is how he said it to him. And they said, yeah, because we technically own the property. And he says, go back and look. So they went back and then they came back with their tail between the legs. He said, you're right, he still owns that property, he said, where that highway was. And they hadn't legally taken it from them, this was an old road to start with, and he just always kept it all, the title to it, and was never right away. And then he says, okay, let me tell you where you're gonna put it. And how you're gonna do it, and told me that he showed them back behind the house where they would curve.
Where we're gonna put it.
back in the house.
They tried to take it, but they didn't.
Good story.
Well, I make a motion that we close.
Well, we got one more item. Commissioner comments.
Oh.
I just made my
I
comment.
made mine, save my name,
Amen.
Sean, commissioner comments?
please.
Hey, quickly.
That's what I say.
You better make it quick.
So that we can just say it and run, right?
Okay.
I was hoping the code enforcement one was not just on. We should make a motion to have it on hold. Because usually we have it on the work agenda and then we have it on our regular as a discussion or whatever.
Well, we're not ready for it to do anything with it yet, they're just on our work.
Well, yes, we are, because we have to make a recommendation. But here's my concern and my comment is that I believe that we've been doing a very good job sticking to our task, which is not to enforce everything and make it difficult, but just to plan for any future growth that's going to happen. I think we've been doing a very good job. What my concern is that the town council doesn't feel that same way, or at least a portion of that. Doesn't feel that same way, and we are being thrown under the bus constantly. One of the concerns I had, and I want to make sure that it gets known by the chair, that at the last town council meeting, we did not have that liaison, the person that could stand up and say, hey, this is what we did at our meeting. Because I was not recognized to fill that role, even though I would be the chair pro temp. I'm glad Bronwyn has taken that role. So if Cameron is not there.
Yeah, I don't have any.
It wasn't you, it's me.
Oh.
You don't have any control over that. But the mayor did and realized that, and I was not recognized a couple of different times about how the comments were going and what's said. So just the concern that what we do here, I feel that we're doing a great job. Let's keep up the work. We do the brunt of the work. We'll just keep on going. I don't know until they catch up. If there's much more, we should even pass on though. So let's continue to work on stuff and have it ready. And when they're ready for it, hopefully I can do some lobbying and town council to put together some procedure where if we recommend something, that it at least goes on the agenda. We can table it or no action or whatever, but at least we know it's moved on. And it's actually made the agenda for that next month or the next meeting. We can't.
He's gonna lobby, just saying he's gonna lobby.
I'm just gonna lobby for it because it's frustrating that 6 months down the road, they haven't addressed something, and then we have to remember what the motion was because they don't have it in front of them, and
I write the papers.
so. Yes, but do they get read at that moment?
I write.
So that's why I'm saying there needs to be some sort of process. Just like when we receive ordinances, it's gotta be on this agenda and this agenda, and we can move it on. Follow the process, they should have a process too. Just hoping we can recommend that, and if there's some support from others, please mention that to our town council as well.
Well, Ken, I appreciate you seeing that we're all working hard together and we like what we do. But I'd like to just, one of us should be kind of the the obstruction in the room, and I was hopeful that I might be able to qualify to some degree. You know, to not have so many warm fuzzies from you all the time. You could just kind of, you know,
I'll work at that, okay?
talk over.
Kent, would you like to set a date to work on, the commercial portion of our lighting ordinance? As a work
Yeah,
meeting?
so I would say, February 1st.
February.
Need a date to work,
Is your brain
have,
that much
to have something in writing or a date. to
February.
Get together, have a work meeting. If you have something in writing, that would be great.
No, so, it can be sooner than that, if you want to just talk about it together. But yeah, let's have a meeting.
February 1st,
What is that?
it's a Wednesday.
Be here.
Time? 7?
Day, Wednesday, is that better?
Late, a little later is easier for me.
Sounds good. So we got-
Crystal, can you notice that meeting for us?
And I'd say my lighting ordinance.
I've been in trouble a lot this week.
Yes. But I sent it to you.
Yeah.
And I said, got it.
Okay, are we done, guys?
I'm done.
Where's that motion?
I'm making a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Second. All in favor?
I got a motion for Bronwyn. You should have been the chair. To close the meeting in a second from Kent, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Here, opposed. Boss.
Good. Stay healthy.
Why have your money go? And had a meeting. Yeah. In your. Oh, that means. Sorry, I saw the sample thing, I don't want any improvement. Hey, the only improvement I want.
Yeah, so Ron came.
I need to improve his water system and that's why I did it. No, but I will. Stop.